What up, everybody? Welcome back. Sober Experience. Hope you guys are doing well. It is Turkey Week. We got a new episode today. Happy to be with you. Happy to not be alone. Let's kick this thing off right with a little Janko Nilovic. It's called Drug Song. One of my favorites. I have a lot of favorites. Shit is mean right there. All right. Everybody, welcome here. Welcome home. And shut off that speaker. Doing our thing. It's Tuesday. I'm still have yet to get back in sync with my every Sunday episode, but I'm going to try and continue to do at least once a week. Get some more guests so you guys don't have to hear me babble. But yeah, hope everybody's getting ready for the holiday. The holiday, in recovery. I don't know, these guys, like these old school guys, they used to call it like, oh, this is triple witching time, which is like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, you know? And it ain't because of the food. It's because of the families. That's why people have problems. Either A, they're going to have to go and be with and around people they don't always like, even though you may love them. The other thing is also that, you know, there's a lot of resentments. There's all of that. Or the opposite is they don't have any family, and then they see everybody like, oh my God, everybody's got somewhere to go except for me, poor me. Hang on 1 second, please. I'm sorry. I got to take off my headphones just for a minute. Because, yeah. Sorry, I had to get comfortable. I had this shirt on that was like strangling me. So, yeah. So either, there's no middle of the road kind of stuff. So, and it's funny because, as I got older, I have a big family. We don't all get together anymore, and that's okay. A lot of it has to do with just the fact that motherfuckers are old, man. Everybody's a little. I don't know how people, when I was a kid, how they all did it. Maybe because they were all drinking. So they didn't mind 40 people plus children in one apartment. Or one house or whatever. It was just like, yeah, it was, and it was a good time. It was a really good time. As a kid, you're just like, wow, everybody, there's so much food. The music is fucking blasting. Yeah, nobody's watching. The TV's not even allowed to be on. Everybody's getting fucking wasted. And there's so much food, and you and all your cousins are running around. You're like halfway dressed up in somewhat decent clothes. Like you can't come to Thanksgiving, without shoes, pants, and a shirt on. And the family that I come from, like that's how it is. Like you just can't. You gotta fucking look nice. It's a holiday, And it's wild because even my wife now, she didn't come from that nucleus, or maybe a different nucleus. Like she never cared like if her kids got dressed for the holidays. I'm like, dog, we can't go to my parents or to my cousin's house with them in fucking like jeans and sneakers. Like, no, we gotta fucking look the part, be the part, motherfucker. Anyway, So yeah, yeah, it's rough. It's rough, and you always ask yourself, how do you want to spend your time or whatever, and you know, when you come from a a place where you're just uncomfortable. Now, in my 40s or whatever, yeah, nobody wants to get together like that and be like, oh, all right, there's going to be 90 of us or whatever. My cousins in Florida, I think they all do it. But by this time, there's enough little squabbles and little resentments and this and that people basically what it is there's not the resentments have run out of booze. It's like there's not enough drink to matter that I don't want to be around Chacho or whoever. Yeah, I don't want to be around them. And you get more comfortable just with things being small. Me personally, I had to surrender to that. Because on Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, I was like running around making rounds. Like, I'm going to go to this person's house, and then I'm going to go to this person's house, and then I'm going to stop by here. And I would just be blind, just blind drunk the whole time. And, doing some nachos, Bolivian blizzard up the nose. Yeah, that's just the way it was. So now it's not like that, and I don't really mind. So we're going to go to my in-laws, my sister-in-law's boyfriend's mother's house, which I'm excited to do because I'm going to be around people I don't know, and which is cool. But I also, I got to be on my best behavior. I got to watch, my fucking slurs, and I don't mean like dribbly speech. I mean, like, the way that me and my family joke with each other. Yes, I got to watch that. But, yeah, it'll be a little bit, like, politically correct. I don't want to embarrass my sister-in-law. She's the fucking best. She is so amazing and so beautiful on the inside and out. And she's a hustler, and she's everything. My sister-in-law, Natalie. I fucking love her, Anyway, so... point is that people who are newly sober or newly off of drugs are trying to make changes in their life. This is a tough period for them. So that's why I always tell everybody, you got to stay close. You got to stay close. You got to stay close to the rooms. There are meetings that people can go to, they have like these things, they call them alkathons, where like on Thursday, Thanksgiving, one of my home groups, the Greenwood group, they have meetings there from the morning to the fucking night, all day, every hour on the hour, boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? And I just dropped off a bunch of pies yesterday, because yesterday they cut a cake for your boy for the 20 years. Wah, wah, wah. Beep, boop, beep. Yeah, so 20 years they cut a cake for me. Well, I bring my own cake, but last year, I don't know, every year I try to just, these things matter. They do matter. And last year, what did I bring for everybody? Because I got to bring my own cake. They buy like your first year cake. After that, you got to bring your own cakes every year. And it's a nice meeting, and you get a bunch of speakers and whatever. And so I bought a bunch of pies for the holiday season. I bought pumpkin pies and sweet potato pies and whipped cream. And I'm like, dog, this is the fucking way to go, And it was nice. Last year, I brought with me cheesecakes from Jean Dene Bakery, which, if you're not, I don't know, whatever. If you're not from Brooklyn, then you don't know that Jean Dene makes probably the best cheesecake in Brooklyn. People say, oh, Junior's. But it's like, yeah, that's like, I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Junior's, I guess, is good. It's good if you don't know, or you're just coming into Brooklyn. It's right on the Brooklyn side of the I think it's on the Manhattan. Yeah, on the Manhattan Bridge side. Or is it coming up Flatbush? Yeah, on the Manhattan Bridge, whatever. Yeah, Junior's, yeah, is good, but Junior's to me is okay. Their food is horrible. Fucking horrible. Yeah, and when you go and you sit down and eat in there, you'll be angry that you did. The cheesecake is pretty good. They have I think a lemon meringue pie, which is pretty good. You know, but their cheesecake is not as good as Aunt Butchie's. Aunt Butchie's, is it Aunt Butchie's or Aunt Butchie's? You know, I grew up saying aunt. I don't know who says aunt. It's my aunt, my aunt. You know, I don't know. I always thought that would be like, aunt is a bug. Your aunt is not a bug. So, Aunt Butchie's, which used to be, I think, on 13th Avenue in Bensonhurst, they have the most unbelievable cheesecakes. And they have cheesecake cones. They have all kind of shit. Sick. They closed that location, and I think they have it now just also in Bay Ridge. I don't know exactly where. The cheesecake comes like a little bit frozen, which is good. You know what I'm saying? So you don't, I mean, you can buy by the slice and eat right away, but it's really, yeah, it's really good. But better than that, we have found, and Aunt Butchie's has unbelievable fucking key lime pie. It is unreal. It is unreal, the key lime pie. And that's one of my favorite things on earth. That and chocolate cream pie. So, better than Aunt Butchie's is Jean Denet. Denet, I believe. Dog, their fucking cheesecakes? I'm telling you. You have some of those, then you'll see if you're Juniors. If you like Juniors. Yeah, Jean Denet is like a real, like, Brooklyn bakery. You know, there's not too many of them left. You know, there's one on 13th Avenue, Tasty Bakery. It's pretty good. They have a couple of other ones, you know, but you know, you become a little bit of like a snob. You say, all right, I like these. I like the cookies from this place. Whatever Linzer tart cookies that they have at, which I love and my middle kid, Adrian, loves. They sell them at Leone's on 15th Avenue, which makes the best sandwich, best Italian, you know, dry your mouth out with all the fucking prosciutto and the salt and all of the cold cut sandwich you can find is at Leone's. Next to it is Papa Pasquale. Not that great. No offense to them. But Leone's, unbelievable. Next to Leone's is Romeo Meats, where that's like one of the butchers that we go to. You know, this shit is prime. You know, if you're making steak, you want to have prime. And there's that. So, being that I've been in like the Bensonhurst, Bath Beach, you know, Pinky Ring side of town for a long time, 15 years. You know, when I first moved to Brooklyn, I was in the Park Slope area. But I've been in like Brooklyn. You know, I only lived over there for like maybe 3 years, and I loved it. I mean, it was cool. I didn't really, you know, yeah, it was just starting to turn. It was like early 2000s. Some people in the 90s were like, oh, it turned in 94. Like, it was just starting to turn like early 2000s. I was in like Windsor Terrace. You could still find parking. Apartments weren't that expensive. I was doing big 2 bedrooms for like $1,700. You know what I'm saying? And there was like, you know, a crackhead and an alcoholic across the hall from me. Now, forget it. That same apartment's probably like $4,000 for 2 bedrooms. And the guy at the corner who had the bodega, he got busted selling. I mean, busted with like, not selling. I guess selling. But he had, yeah, he had like tractor trailer, 40,000 cartons of cigarettes, you know. And I felt bad because he was a good guy, but, you know, good guys do these kind of things and whatever. So, yeah, it was a different time, different neighborhood. Anyway, so back to the story. Yeah, so Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, right? So Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You know, then it's like, Christmas comes, like, who's going to get a gift? Who's not going to get a gift? I was mad that Modell's went under because when Modell's was up, you can get nice hoodies like, Adidas or whatever, like dope ass fucking hoodies, or even just regular like dope shit, champion shit. They were like $20, $25. I would buy fucking 10 or 20 of them. That would take care of all my cousins. Everybody gets a hoodie, and we're fucking rolling, And then New Year's, I would never go out. I would never go to. One of my cousins would always have a party, and it would get really like nuts. So I only went like maybe twice in the last 20 years. But there are sober parties which are a lot of fucking fun. I never went to. There was one in the Rockaways, which is supposed to be really nice. I used to go to the Soho New Year's Eve party, which was fucking bonkers, man. I mean, you would think that shit was it. I mean, it's in a church, but it's huge. At the time, music blasting. 300, 400, 500 sober people dancing their ass off. The fucking gay guys with the fucking glow sticks and the whole shit. It was so much fun. So much fun. So early recovery, I just find the shit like that to do. That's before everybody started tweeting and texting and shit and whatever. Like, swiping. There was no swipes. You had to go out and try and close a deal. Yeah, so, so there's that. And then, and then that's it, man. That's it. But it's, it's a good time of the year. I can't wait, to start judging people when they, on Facebook or, which is one of my main social media platforms. That, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And everyone's like, new year, new me, bitches. And I was like, okay. It's funny. And, or when you see, this is for people in my age group, I guess. Random photo, one of your friends, all of a sudden, boop, profile picture, they're by themselves. And I'm like, oh shit, they're getting a divorce. Or they're splitting up or whatever. And it makes me grateful that, they're exiting the highway and I'm just getting on. Straight up. I had a chance to get to know myself, get to know my partner for a long time, get to change myself, get to maybe inspire my partner to change and to make all the necessary adjustments we needed to before we, threw a fucking crazy wedding, So, but, yeah, another trip around the sun, not a drop of... and not drinking and not doing drugs is kind of like easy for me now. It's just not, it's not on the menu. And I stay close enough to all my recovery friends that, I'm not really tempted in any way. I'm tempted to do maybe some other stuff. I don't really know. But I've been on this. I'm tempted to self-destruct. And the way that I do that is by just kind of getting in my own way when it comes to, I'll go... like I haven't been to the gym in like 2 days. What was it, yesterday and today? It's never too late today. I can go home do. Bro, you want to hurt yourself. I remember one day, I think last week, I didn't, just to warm up in the gym, I did 100 push-ups, which is like whatever. But I did 100 body weight squats. So I did a set of 20, set of 30, set of 30, set of 20. And this was just to turn on the... just to get loose. I was like, I don't want to fucking run or do something to start to break a sweat, and then I start lifting or whatever. I did that. Dude, from the body squats, my legs were sore for like 2 days. And then I was happy because, then a couple days after that, I did this was like last week. Then I did like real legs, and I did fucking deadlift Crazy Town. And then I went, because it's polar bear season, so I went into the cold water on Sunday. And it was pretty freaking cold. And it was good. So it was like therapeutic. So, but as I was saying, that, to be around, to be around some people, places, and things. Yeah, I tell people in recovery all the time, you got to stay close to the rooms. So the other day, yesterday. We had a beautiful meeting. You know, it was my anniversary. We had a couple of really good speakers. This one lady, Emily, who I am going to try and coax to come on the show because she is lovely. I always try to get like a female and a male speaker, people whose recovery I admire. And, and then I kind of fill in the time in between. The meeting used to only be an hour long, and they had a break. So everybody could only speak for 10 minutes. But now the meeting is like an hour and 15 minutes long with no breaks. So I had some time to get up on the soapbox and start fucking babbling. You know? Which is good because sometimes it's like, bro, sometimes I want the fucking stage. Like, let me tell you a couple of 3 things. This is how you stay sober. This is how you get better. This is how, like, I'm a useful person to some of these people because I have a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom of making good choices in my life that, A, keep me away from a drink, but B, keep me happy. Keep me happy. And I was like, I had enough time to, like, really lay into people. Not lay into them, but, get up on them. And I talked a lot about the step work, which everybody should be doing. Because I always say, like, all the bad shit that happens in life, it's all on the way. The girlfriend or boyfriend that is going to leave you, the job that you're going to get fired from, all of the stuff, the parents or whoever getting sick, all of the perils of life are on the way. And all of the good things are on the way, too. Like new jobs, new boyfriend, girlfriend, they friends. Like all of that stuff is also on the way. But the problem is that people who are emotionally stunted because all they do as addicts and alcoholics is just think about themselves in the moment. Like, how do I relieve myself from the pain of this moment? And I either do it by drinking or drugging or by hurting myself or somebody else. None of those things serve you in any way. So like, how do you stop doing that? How do you stop yourself when you're getting low and depressed from reaching for the fucking donuts and not just one? And it's funny because my buddy Glenn, who I admire so much, he came into the meeting. He was almost late. He came at the end. And, because he thought the meeting was at 8 and it was at 7. So he was there for 15 minutes. But somebody I admire and somebody who like recovery at Chase. Maybe he's got 30 years or something, 32 years, 35 years or something. And he's a young guy, whatever. He's younger. Maybe he's in his early to mid 50s. He's in shape. He's got a beautiful Spanish wife. He's got a bunch of prizes. He's got all the cash and prizes, and he stays anyway. So I asked him when he sat down, I was like, Glenn, you want some pie? Because I'll send some, basically like fetch the guy some pie. And he was like, no, thank you. He says, because I'll either eat the whole pie or none at all. And I was like, holy shit, look at you, bro. And I identify with that. So one of the things that I spoke a lot about was in the people like, well, how do you get to where you are? How do you find yourself? How do you fix yourself? How do you fix yourself? Well, it starts with understanding that the choices that you make that are based on things that happened for you or to you are no longer serving you in any way. They're no longer positive. You're not getting any results from them. When they say like, I don't know why, but alcohol stopped working. Not only did it stop working, some of the other desperate choices stopped working. So how do you change? How do you change? How do you change who you are? Because really, what happens is that, when you find out who you are, that's who you are. You are what you do. Your actions, to me, dictate who you are. Not so much how I feel. It's what I do. Or what I think. It's what I do. And I said that yesterday. I said, that if you think insane, crazy things, that doesn't make you crazy. I think that makes you human. But if you are doing those things, then we have different. We have a different equation. So most important thing is, how do you know what to change about yourself? Like, where do you start? And I speak a lot about this stuff, this inventory. I say, got to do inventory. My cousin Tim gave me my coin. And he said, every time I talk to Jared on the phone, it's always like, those are your character defects. Your character defects are basically your response to life that perpetuate more problems, or they exasperate the current problem. They're not solution. The only solution that they provide is, mental and emotional pain alleviation. The alleviation of that pain in the moment. Yeah. So, you have to do these inventories. And the inventory in AA the first one is at the fourth step. So it's funny because in the meeting that I chair on Thursdays, this is where we are, or part of where we are. So I figured I'd go through some of that stuff now, because people asked me to talk about it because I understand and know how it works and how you can change and how you can even go from, like, it's when I even mentioned it yesterday when I said that, a lot of the people who are in this room yesterday, they only know me for a couple of years, maybe 2, 3. There are people in there that know me for 20, and they're, but there's few of us around because a lot of people don't make it. They just don't fucking make it. Straight up. They fucking don't. It's miracles and death. That's what's in the recovery room. So anyway, I'm going to read a little bit out of the book, and I'll give you guys who want to listen a little bit of synopsis of what to do. But the book is very precise in the language. And it's a very old book, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're starting at the bottom of page 63. It says, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action. The first step is a personal house cleaning, which many of us have never attempted. Never. We've never attempted, right? Even to sit there and take a look at myself like, where the fuck and with people who are not just going to co-sign your shit. People are going to be like, nah, man, you're being your behavior is atrocious, sir. Anyway, so, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Blocking us from who? Blocking us from peace. Blocking us from, if you want, God. Blocking us from our fellow man. Blocking us from love. Blocking us from success. We have to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Not in our lives, but things in ourselves that have been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom. We had to get down to causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. This is true. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or damaged or unsaleable goods to get rid of them promptly and without regret. So they're using metaphors here to talk about some of your actions, attitudes, and behaviors. You have to face yourself. A fact-finding and fact-facing process. And you have to get rid of these. They call them character defects. That's what they're called. But they're basically habits. They're just bad habits that anytime somebody made me feel a certain way, I behaved this way. And I can't tell that there's a pattern until I start writing literally all of this down. If the owner, I'm going to continue. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. In other words, I never thought that I was ever being paid enough for any job that I had. So I stole from every job that I've ever had. And not just like cash register, yeah, I'm stealing money. But I stole time, which is a big thing. Rarely did I put in an honest, good day's work. Rarely. I've done it. But it wasn't part of my core value. I had a value that like, fuck these people. They're not paying me enough. I'm making this much and I'm making them this much. So I deserve to break this rule or whatever. Like I said, stealing time, These are values that I did not have. I'm going to continue on. We did the exact same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. Failure could mean anything to you. Is it unhappiness? Is it depression? Is it not living up to your own desires and expectations of yourself, of other people? I don't know. Whatever failure is for you, that's what it is. Okay? Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways was what had defeated us. We considered its common manifestations. What does that mean? That means selfishness. When I'm only thinking about me, I'm not thinking about, if I'm using the example of a job that I had when I worked in the bank and I stole time and I stole money from the bank. I'm not thinking about how that affects everybody else. I'm just thinking about myself in that moment. Me. I deserve. I need. That's what that is. And it says, now I'm going to continue on. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we can straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. But let me stop there for a second. Okay? Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. I think it destroys more people than anything else. Resentments are basically, I'm going to give you the dictionary fucking definition of what a resentment is. Because I know it's just like refeeling of old anger, resentment definition. Let's see what it says. Bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. Bah! That is like, that's serious. Bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. Yeah. Or the perception of me being treated unfairly. When the truth is sometimes it's just fucking life. But my perception of that's really good. I like that. From it stem all form of spiritual disease. For we have not only been mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. How do I feel about myself? Honestly. How do I feel about myself? How do I feel about my behavior? How do I feel about the repercussions of my behavior with myself? How do I live with what I've done? How? I can't undo it. I've done a fucking lot. And we've been on this journey together, the spiritual experience, now the sober experience for 2 years. In the beginning, I laid out a lot of stuff that I've done. And periodically, I revisit that. You know? So how do I live with that? How do I let that go? I'm going to continue on. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we can straighten out mentally and physically. Okay. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore. We were burned up. On our grudge list, we set opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, or our ambitions, our personal or sex relations which had been interfered with? We were usually as definite as this example. And it gives like so basically what you do is you make these 3 columns. In the first column, it's you're listing all the people, places, and things who you're mad at. Right? What did they do to you goes in the second column. The third column is what it affects. So this is all fiction stuff. This is from the book, but this is the roadmap. So the first one says like Mr. Brown. Right? So let's say I'm fucking Charlie. Right? And this is my list. Mr. Brown, I'm resentful at. Why am I resentful? His attention to my wife. He told my wife of my mistress, and Mr. Brown may get my job at the office. Those are the reasons why I would be mad at Mr. Brown, and rightfully so. What does it affect? My sex relations, obviously, with the wife, my self-esteem, and my security. You know, so that's in the third column. The fourth column, which we'll get to in a few minutes, is basically when that is happening, what is my response? How am I responding to that? What is my side of the street? Can I really be mad at Mr. Brown, right? If fucking, if I wasn't cheating on my wife, what would he have to tell my wife? You know, he may get my job at the office. Am I drinking and drugging? Or am I not doing the best that I can at work? Why would I even feel threatened about that if I'm doing the best that I can? You know, his attention to my wife. Yeah, he can be a little bit angry. I wouldn't be angry unless he's like my friend. Then I'd be really angry. Either way. So that's how the list goes. So we went, and then I'm going to continue on. We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. I mean, all the way back as far as you can remember. You know, because a lot of us have been caught in these patterns of responses that really ended up building, building a fucking house made out of dog shit. And somehow we've had, successes here and there or whatever, but we're not happy. The point is to be happy. If you're not happy, you gotta start looking at yourself. You're more than 50% of the reason why you're not happy. You're more than 50%. You're probably 80% of the reason why you're not happy. And that's the fucking fact-finding and fact-facing thing. You know? I'm going to continue on. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent to us was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got before doing the inventory. Blamed. It's them, these, whatever. This, them, and those. That. That's the reason why I'm fucking the way that I am. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. It's like, you get in an argument with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your spouse, whatever. You got this thing that you've been holding on to in your pocket that you've been saying to yourself in the car or on the train or by yourself about them, and part of you maybe fantasizes about saying it to them, to their fucking face. And then a spat comes. And then you pull it out. And then you say what you wanna you say what you've been holding on to. And it's not constructive. Or maybe it hits way below the belt. And I've been there. And, periodically I know not to go there. But it's only been the last, couple of years, 3-5 years that I haven't gone there, in some of those situations when it came to my partner, my wife, Yeah, I've said some stuff that I can't unsay, And it sucks. And I can be like, yeah, I'm human. Don't worry. Just let it go. And it doesn't, some bells you can't unring, So our moments of triumph was short-lived. That's what that means for me, that I felt good in that moment. Finally, I got to tell you what I really thought or what I really felt. No, just what I thought. I didn't tell you what I felt. Yeah. And it sucks, man. It sucks when I do that. Anyway, continue on. If you identify, you're listening to the right show. It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads to only futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. How long are we this is me now, not the book. How long are we ruminating about my fucking dad, my mom, my sister, my cousins? They fucking did this, they did that. Like, even though I did some bad shit too, but they did, it's they. How many hours am I squandering in that fucking loop? It's like, that was my whole life, was that loop. That was my whole life. How do we stop that? This is how. But with alcoholics, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal, for when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again, and with us to drink is to die. Now, I'm not going to... The likelihood of me drinking... It's on the menu, but the likelihood is very low. But it's more... I have a better chance of wasting my time and wasting my life by being angry at people. For whatever reason. Staying angry. I'm going to continue on. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. That may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for the alcoholic, these things are poison. We turned back to the list, for it held the key to our future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We began to see that the world and its people actually dominated us. What does that mean? That means the longer I stay angry at him or at them, they're my fucking master. Because now I can't bring my good positive vibes and my love everywhere else where I fucking go. I can't be that fucking guy because I'm still holding on. I'm a ball of fucking tight anger because of my judgment of others. So what does it say? We began to see that the world and people actually dominated us. In that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had the power to actually kill. I know people that have stayed angry enough to not get out of their own way and not to put a life together that they deserve. And then they end up creating their own little depression hole, and then they drink. That's what happens. You paint yourself into a corner. You know? So fancied or real, what do we don't, when we're angry at somebody and there's a conflict, it's typically because we don't have all the information. We don't know what's going on. They don't know 100% what's going on. And that's why that happens. So fancied or real had the power to kill. How could we escape? We saw that these resentments must be mastered, but how? We could not wish them away more than alcohol. This was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. We asked God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry. Thy will be done. I don't know about all that fucking shit at the end. But when I see somebody committing an infraction towards me, I see some of myself in them and say, hey, look, man, I'm a human being too, and they're just being human at the moment. You know, have I ever done what this person is doing to me, to either them or somebody else in my life? Have I ever done that? The answer is invariably yes. So then who am I to be this upset in this moment, be this upset that I'm just going to sit here and stew and fucking simmer, you know, and then start reaching for things to take me out of that stewing and simmering, or to make it worse. How can I pile up on top of this? How can I be even more depressed? Let me put on, I don't know if there's a song sad enough on this earth for how sad I sometimes want to fucking be. I don't think it exists. You know, if it did, it'd be me singing and my fucking boy Patrick on fucking the backup vocals, and we'll swap choruses. Shout out to him. He's coming home soon, man. I love him. You know, my boy. Yeah. And we get to see the humanity in others once we see this kind of stuff going on. You know, when a person offended, we said to ourselves, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? Right? It doesn't mean how can I help you? How can I just give you the space to be who you are in the moment? And then if you feel bad or don't feel bad about it, to not fucking torture you. Next paragraph. We avoid retaliation or argument. This is fucking important. Avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance for being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely looked for our own mistakes. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight. What actions am I taking to keep this cycle going in my life? that needs to be written down and it needs to be discovered. And I need to sit there with somebody else so they can hold me accountable and also let me know that I'm not the only one that has behaved or thought these things. Right? Says, notice the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown. You know, this short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. I'm going to read that again. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did not we ourselves set the ball rolling? Huh, who the fuck wants to hear that? Sometimes we think fear ought to be classified with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper. Even though we had no resentment in connection with them, we asked ourselves why we had them. Was it because self-reliance had failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there was a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. What does that mean? Your higher power, God, love, all of those things, all of those values that I did not have, that even if I had them, I didn't use them. Maybe you're the same way. That if I make choices in my life based on those values, I have a faith that my life will turn out okay. And it will, because I will be at peace. I know that if I'm putting in a solid day, I know, look, my wife, I used to say my woman, my wife can go through my motherfucking phone. You know why? Because I'm not playing footsie with anybody. Maybe she doesn't like a couple Instagram titties or something or whatever that maybe my friends send to me or something stupid. But I am not behaving in any nefarious way. You know, so if she were to look through my shit, which she can, and decide to fucking leave me, I know it's not going to be because of that. So that's the faith that I have, that I know if I stop the cycle of life not going by my own hand, then it's just life happening. Then I'm like, dude, if I'm doing all the right things and I still get fired from this job, then that means this job was not for me. That's what that means. That means that maybe this person was not for me. That means that maybe this living situation was not for me. If I'm basing my choices on those values, you know, it's crazy. I'm going to continue on. We are in the world to play the role. What does it say? We are in the world to play the role He assigns. Just to the extent that we do this, we think He would have us and humbly rely upon Him. Does He enable us to match calamity with serenity? Basically, what I just said. If I live my life based on those values that I believe, that's what God wants me to be. That's who God wants me to be. You know, I was telling this yesterday at the meeting. I'm not a leader. I'm a follower. 1,000,000%. But I learned how to lead in AA. I did. I learned how to lead in AA. I learned how to lead in all the books I've read since I've been in AA. On leadership and whatever, because I am not a born leader. I am a follower. You know? Anyway, I'm going to keep going. We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God, whoever it is to you. We never apologize to God. I fucking never do. God is everything for me. And he's not some guy up in the clouds with ColecoVision saying, okay, you're going to sleep in a tent and you're going to live in a high rise. That's not who God is for me. God is somebody else. So you can have your own God, and if nobody ever told you. Instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. We ask him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be at once we commence to outgrow fear. It's very important. Very important. We got a couple of minutes left. I don't want to go too far beyond the whatever, but this next thing is very important, right? Because this is also a part of the inventory that some people skip and they fucking fail eventually because it causes them a lot of problems. Next paragraph. Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there, but above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is our the lust of our lower nature, animal instinct, the base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind. They see that its significance everywhere. One school would allow men no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy, which is good because all that whole shit I read doesn't really make any sense. We don't want to be the arbitrator of anyone's sexual conduct. We all have sex problems. This is where I come in. We all have sex problems, dog. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. And what can we do about them? Here's a very important part. We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? What does it say? Where were we at fault? Sorry, I just had one of those. You know what I'm talking about. The fucking vaccine brain farts. In real life, just happened right now. Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and we looked at it. In this way, we tried to shape our sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideas, to help us live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. Okay. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does that mean we're going to get drunk? Some people will tell us so, but this is only a half truth. It depends on us and on our motives. Basically, if you are trying to live a spiritual life and you are out there committing harms, meaning taking advantage of people, being selfish in a sexual way, it will lead you closer to a drink because it will create more mayhem in your life than if you're just being cool. And just because like you're being honest, like, yeah, no, this girl or this guy, they know that we're just dating and just whatever. Yeah, that's fine. But I always say just because you didn't get caught doesn't mean you got away. Just because on a technicality, you're being truthful, does that mean you're being, does that mean you're being real? Does that mean you're being like loving? I don't know. Everybody else is different. Okay. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to get drunk. That's what I just said. We are not theorizing. These are facts from our experience. Guys and gals that do not get themselves together in this department over time that I've seen in recovery, it doesn't happen overnight, but over time, dog, they always end up relapsing. Because eventually you can't run away from the guilt, shame, and remorse that you've done other people. How do you say no? How do you say no? That's what this whole thing boils down to. How do you say no to yourself? How do you say no to somebody else? Maybe this person is into you more than you're into them. That doesn't give you the right to take advantage of that. I had to learn that lesson. And I learned it because I was into somebody more than they were into me. And I had no fucking chance. And it hurt me. It hurt me. I was like, what the fuck am I? Why am I over here trying to put my best foot forward when I have absolutely no chance? And what did I do? I shit all over them instead of just stepping off. When I was like, oh, you're gonna do this to me? Well, I'm gonna do this to you. And it wasn't right. No matter what, it wasn't right. And that's what this boils down to. All right. I'm going to keep going. To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal for the guidance of each questionable situation, for sanity and for strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, if it is, we throw ourselves into we throw ourselves harder into helping others. Stay away, for a little while. We think of their needs and we work for them. This takes us out of ourselves and quiets the imperious urge. When to yield would mean heartache. This quiets the what does that say? Imperious urge. And when to yield to that urge means heartache, which means that yourself when you make those phone calls, or you send those messages to those people, that you're just going to get temporary relief and that it's going to end up with you not feeling good about who you are. If we've been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their futility. How little they are and and their fatality. Excuse me, not futility, fatality. Their futility and their fatality. That's pretty good. We've commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill towards men, women, even our enemies. We look on to them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out our past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. Happiness, that's what I mean. Whatever actions you're taking that are blocking you from real happiness. If you have already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That beginning That beginning, so you will have swallowed and digested some of the big chunks of truth about yourself. It's very important stuff. That's how the inventory is done. And that's what the inventory means. Especially, I was talking about this last week at that meeting that I chair, because we were going through the sex inventory stuff. And this is just me. You know, it's just me. So, what I learned in my mind as a young person growing up, you know, I don't know, I objectified women. I just did, you know. I don't know if I was raised like that. My dad really loves my mom. And he's an animal and a pig in a lot of ways, but he ain't in that way. But I just think that's just how I was. I was inexperienced, I was young, whatever. Anyway, so saying that to say that part of me believed that, you know, if I wanted to have sex with somebody that was my girlfriend or partner or whatever, that I would be offended if they said no. And how would I respond, right? As a young person, sometimes I wouldn't give a shit because I was never with one person, because I was incapable of having a relationship with anybody, because I always had drugs and alcohol and partying and being young on my mind. I couldn't think of anybody but myself at those times. But as I got older, and even in sobriety, you know, I mean, I never forced myself on anybody ever. You know, I definitely grabbed a couple of booties on the dance floor trying to grind up on some bitches. But, you know, I never been slapped in my face for that. There's a right time, right place, whatever. But the point is that I would feel supremely rejected. Supremely. And it was a feeling. I would be angry. I'd feel rejected. I'd feel like I wasn't enough. I'd feel like a loser if the girl was like, no, I'm not today or whatever. I'd be like, fucking what? You know? The anger would turn. I wouldn't be angry at them, but I would turn fucking cold. I would turn absolutely cold. And that cold would make them maybe feel guilty. And that's not being nice about it. You know, I didn't know how to have honest conversations about sex with anybody. I'd be like, oh, well, you know, I would only feel validation if, you know, if we both had orgasms. It was that. And I would do whatever it takes for my partner to have one. Whatever. No butt stuff. You ain't putting no fingers in my booty. But, like, because from doing this inventory, it would make me feel like I was worth something if I could do that for somebody else. Or not even to somebody else. You know? If I can make a woman have orgasm, that's one thing that I could fucking do. You know? But I couldn't be fucking nice and cool about it if she didn't want to do it today. You know? And that's fucking whack, bro. That's fucking whack. And without doing this inventory, I would have never changed. Ever. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys that's how you feel about that kind of stuff now. Like, no, my girl, she has to. When I say, bro, she fucking has to. Otherwise, I'm going to go get it somewhere else. Like, what? You know, I understand that thinking. And I'm not looking down on it, but I'm definitely looking past it. I don't think like that anymore. I don't know when the last time I thought like that. Or I just needed that validation, and that was one way that I got it. So I felt supremely rejected and felt like shit, and I would be fucking cold, and I would be silent. I wouldn't even know how to express myself in a constructive manner. Or so instead of like running my fucking mouth or whatever, I say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that because that's what a mean fuck does. So what I would do is I would just pout. I would just pout. And through doing these inventories over time, I learned that, really learned it with my wife. I've been with the same person 10 years. Everybody else I've been with before, nothing close. Maybe there's 1 year, a bunch of months here and that. So there was that conversation never really happened, Never. It just never happened because because there was there was no substance to any of those relationships. So, and this is how I knew I was with the right person, because I guess I was ready to have these conversations, and I was like, how do I even do that? First, I have to talk about how I feel when that happens. And then, that's like very brave thing. So I started doing that. I said, listen, is there something? Did I do something? Is that like whatever? Just asking questions. And then, my wife, she wouldn't really respond, because who the fuck knows how to have that kind of talk? She wouldn't really respond. And then I would just, stew or sit in sadness and whatever. But then even the fact that I was reaching out like that, then eventually, whenever it was, I don't know. We have a pretty healthy sex life, and it's because of these kinds of interactions. Because then I would come to find out, she's not working a fucking program. She's not doing inventories. What the hell? People don't even know how to say how they feel, And she would be like, it's, I don't know if she would tell me I don't know if she ever told me. Maybe she told me in my face. Maybe she sent in a text message, because I had to surrender to everybody communicates differently. I'm direct, like in your face, And she was like, has nothing to do with you. I don't feel fucking pretty. I feel fucking fat. I feel this. I feel that. And it affects everything else. And if I'm stressed out about this thing or like whatever, it literally has nothing to do with me. But my whole life I thought it always did. And then I knew that my response, the unhealthy one, was hurting her. Was hurting my fucking wife. So I'm like making her feel like shit, because she don't feel it right now, and it's because of her, it's not because of me. She's not like, oh, you're a fat fuck now, and blah blah blah, or just because it's Tuesday. It's like, oh man, she has her own life, her own thing. She's not like I go home and like a pair of scissors in a drawer that I can just pull out whenever I want. It's a human being. That was fucking news to me, So I learned that I can build my relationship with her in an uncomfortable conversation, but in a more healthy, beautiful, loving, caring way. And that's what I mean by inviting the values of God into that area of my life, instead of just being like, yeah, it's beautiful. So when I have my ideal sex partner, which is my wife, is somebody who's not scared to say no to me. That's really what I want. And that's what I have. And I only got there by doing these freaking fourth steps periodically and having people point me in the right direction. You know, sometimes it's blunt, in your face. One of my cousins, he complains, and he needs to get, because these people were very honest with me when they were teaching me these values. My old sponsor, Free Willy, you know, he would always remind me, you know, like, and this is like many moons ago, when he'd be like, you know, if you go to a massage parlor, you're participating in human trafficking. I'm not saying don't go, but I'm letting you know this is what you're doing. You know, just so be honest about what's going on. You know what I'm saying? If you really love your girlfriend, maybe, you know, if you love the girlfriend's kids at the time, my wife's kids, you really love them, then maybe you shouldn't disrespect their mother when you talk to her. That kind of stuff. So when my cousin or my friends call me and they have that situation, like, yeah, man, their wife is going through something, and fucking, they're like, yo, it's been like weeks or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I'm not saying anything except for that I've been there. And I know that the response you're giving right now is not helpful. You're not going to get what you want, which is somebody willing to be with you instead of just surrendering to be with you. Because, like, all right, then this motherfucker will shut. You think, bro, every woman I know has had sex against most of them against their will at some point in their life. And that's a whole nother thing. And they carry that fucking with them. And B, when they didn't want to. I've never known of a guy that had sex when I didn't want to. I don't know fucking one. You know? I don't fucking know one. You know, it's crazy. So anyway, so when somebody calls me with that, I'm just like, oh, this is my turn to throw a fucking stone. So what I say is like, hey, what, you got daughters? What, so you're trying to say your daughter has to say yes every single fucking time? Is that what you're telling me? That your wife or your girlfriend is somebody's daughter. So your daughter has to say yes every time? That's her duty? That's her fucking job? And they'd be like, yo, stop. I don't want to stop, please. Don't say that. I'm like, yeah, okay. Don't forget, you know, your partner is a human. And it's beautiful. You know, it's a beautiful journey. It's a beautiful way to grow together. Yeah. No, that was a lot. All right. So what I'll say is that you can find this show on every podcast platform. The Sober Experience. Apple, Spotify, Google, everywhere. Pandora, everywhere. iHeartRadio, everywhere. So please like and subscribe on all podcast platforms. Share with your friends. Send these episodes everywhere. You know, we have a bunch of, you know, I mean, we do have a lot of fans. We do. Listen, for somebody who does something else for a living, you know, people are listening, you know. I don't know. Let's check the latest stats and then we'll get out of here. Oh, man, I don't want to fucking have to sign in. You know what? It doesn't matter what the stats are. All right? If you're enjoying the show, this one's for you. All right? I love you guys. Peace.